Greetings everyone, welcome back to Blade Bias. Let's take a break from the incredibly long ranty videos that I've been making lately and talk really quickly about my case. I promised you guys an update after I came back to Blade Show, and I have one. Let me just really quickly reassemble it with all the stuff that it's missing, including the Cycloid HD and the Orion, which is spoilers, but yeah, you're getting spoiled, whatever. So this thing came in quite handy, but also kind of failed in a pretty major way. But like not the most major way, whatever. So I carried it around the entirety of Blade Show with most of my collection, 90% of my collection inside of it, and it protected all of it perfectly. I have no complaints on the protection of the case, even though it is a little flimsy and cheaply made, considering that the pin for this handle is literally coming out as we speak, and the whole plastic housing just flexes like crazy. It made it through the plane. Granted, it was in my suitcase, so it's not like it was a real durability test by any means, but it held the whole collection, and it was great. Until it started being used pretty heavily, it got pretty annoying pretty quickly. Not only does this thing weigh 6 kajillion pounds, which like right now it's like, it's not bad, I can lift this, but you know, hold a weight out in your hand and you'll get tired eventually. Hold a maybe 20-pound balisong case in your hand all weekend and your shoulder will want to kill itself in a video game. And that's what my shoulder wanted to do. So it wasn't very fun to carry around, but it was worth it in the sense that anyone could come up and try basically anything that they've ever seen me make a video on, which was really, really cool. I was happy to provide that experience to people. But the case itself, do I recommend it for someone who's looking for a case like this? It's tough. Yes and no. So one thing that really did happen while I was out and about is the case kind of fell apart. You can see some of these foam cubes are like, they're like moving around and they're jiggling and they're not in great spots because like basically all of it came apart. And that's partially my fault since I went to Blade Show with all of them like this, which means there's far more friction when you pull it out because the balisongs are thicker at the bottom. And while they sit in there fine, when you pull them out, you pull the things up with them. So I would frequently come back to my case and there would be like plastic pieces everywhere because someone had pulled something out and it was a whole thing. And I did that because I didn't want any tips to be sticking. Like I knew it would be just my luck that there would be like the Slift T back here. And then someone would go to grab the Prisma, but then their finger would slip down into in between the handle and cut themselves on the Slift T. So I was like, okay, we're not dealing with any of that. We're putting all of the balisongs tip down, and it looked better, but it also meant the demise of the foam far quicker than, you know, anything else. So all of the foam pieces are like coming apart from each other, and you frequently have to like fish out some of these middle foam pieces and like stick them back in there and hope that there's enough friction to keep them there. It's kind of annoying. I won't really have to deal with that anymore now that I'm keeping them tip up. And this will just be kind of sitting in the corner of my room as this is more serving as a, you know, organizational case rather than like an actual case. I bought this so I could keep all my balisongs in one place rather than using the 45 different Nibali's cases that I have to store 3 different balisongs each all across and in their boxes and all that stuff. So in that sense, it was a huge win, but in the sense of like the foam coming apart, it wasn't. I did hear people at Blade shows say that you can like plasti dip them and that kind of helps with it. Maybe, but that also is far more work than I was willing to put into it, considering I bought the thing 12 hours before my flight and, you know, popped all the foam out and everything. And I will also take responsibility in saying that maybe these 2x1 slots separated by one block of foam isn't sturdy enough. Maybe you want to do 2x1 separated by 2 blocks of foam, but then that means that you couldn't store as many. Because again, this is ultimately a organization case, just so I can keep everything in one place. So in that front, I really do recommend it, especially for $40. I'm paying less than $1 per balisong stored in this case. it just wasn't really up to the task of going places and doing things, especially because you can see that this corner is kind of up. So what would happen is every night after the show, I had to go back to the Airbnb, take out all my balisongs, spread them all across the floor, lift up the 2 layers of foam because the very bottom layer of the foam was being pushed back against the back of the case and scrunching up in the back of the case. It was like riding up the wall, which meant that this back piece of foam, the entire thing would just be like kind of up. And here I am messing everything up again. But this entire piece of foam would be like lifted out like this, and it would be angled up because that foam was riding up on the bottom and pushing everything up. So I would have to take everything out, smush the foam back down. Maybe right now I have it turned around. So actually that problem area is right here, which is why this is kind of sticking up. But I had to take everything out, put it, take the foam out, get that fixed, and then put it back in. And it was kind of a whole thing that was really annoying. But again, it's like it's a give and take. While it was really annoying and while it was something that I don't want to deal with again, it was worth it to not only have all my balisongs in one place, but to also give people the experience of trying literally whatever they wanted from my collection, which was really, really cool. Having someone come up and say, "Oh, do you have this? I really want to try that." And then getting to let them try it was, really cool, like I said. So it's a give and take. If you're buying one of these things to maybe do the foam a little bit better than I did, and keep all your balisongs in one place, definitely a recommendation. If you're buying this thing to take in and out balisongs like all the time and you want to keep them tipped down, maybe go with something else, or maybe put a little more time into like maybe plasti dipping the foam, if that is a viable way of doing it. But yeah, in my opinion, I'm going to stick with this one. I'm using the Will Hirsch case, which has, the tougher foam that doesn't come apart and is just more organized for balisongs entirely. I'll use this for all my like special balisongs. You got my Seraph, my Slift T, Prism Pro, Corvus, Damascus Kraken especially. I'll be using this for all kind of like the Grail or special stuff, and then this will kind of just be mass storage, which for mass storage, can't really go wrong with it. So that's pretty cool. It also ended up, I would take out these. So my lube went right here. I can actually grab them right off my desk right here. So my lube, Carbon Honey, went right there, sat right there just fine. And then I put my LDY screwdriver right there. I actually just did this when I got home, but I created a slot for my CRKT Provoke trainer because I hadn't had a good place to store that until now. And now I have like a full dedicated like mass storage balisong thing, and it's sick and I really like it. But if we take these balisongs and we put them in here, that means I only have one row left until it's full, which is like, oh my God, it's actually a problem now. So anyway, that's my storied experience with the case. Do I recommend it? Because I know some people were asking. Like I said, it kind of depends on what your use case is for it. But for what I needed it for, it worked. It did me well. And honestly, it's so nice to have everything in one place. So it kind of outweighs any of the negatives that would be, problematic. I am also realizing that I think the bottom foam was scrunching up because the gravity of holding the case like this with the handle was pushing everything down and getting it to bunch up in the back. So maybe if you kept it on its side, that problem wouldn't happen. In fact, I imagine that is probably the case. Anyway, I said this wouldn't be rambly, and then it ended up being rambly. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace. Whoops.